Okay, let's dive into an insane story that nearly pushed two countries over the edge. We're talking about a high-tech American fighter jet getting shot down over Iran, which then kicked off one of the most unbelievable rescue missions you can imagine.
It all comes down to these three little words from a U.S. president. We got him. Now that sounds simple, right? But it was the end of a frantic, life-or-death race against the clock, deep inside enemy territory. The story of how they got him, well, that's where things get crazy.
So how does a massive international incident like this even start? Well, it all kicks off with a complete disaster for the U.S. military, one of their jets falling out of the sky right over hostile ground.
So picture this. It's a Friday, tensions are already sky high in the region, and then, bam! Iranian air defenses score a huge hit. They take down an American F-15E Strike Eagle. And this isn't just any plane, it's a two-seater, a multi-role fighter. So losing the jet is one thing, but it also means two American lives are in immediate extreme danger. Right after the crash, there's a little bit of good news. They managed to rescue the main pilot pretty quickly. But the other crew member, the weapons systems officer, the person in the back seat who handles all the weapons and navigation, is gone, missing. And just like that, a frantic search and rescue mission goes into overdrive. And here's where the focus totally shifts. This isn't just a search anymore. Oh no, it's now a full-blown manhunt across Iran, with two sides racing to find the exact same person for completely different reasons. See, on one side, you've got the U.S. military throwing everything they have at this to get their officer home safe. But on the other side, the Iranian military is desperately trying to capture what they see as a high-value asset, someone they can use as a bargaining chip. And caught right in the middle, one missing American. And if that wasn't intense enough, Tehran decides to put a price on his head, $60,000 for anyone who can capture him alive. So now it's not just the Iranian military looking for him, it's literally anyone in the area who wants a life-changing payday. For 2 days, 2 whole days, this American pilot is completely alone on the run. His entire survival comes down to his ability to hide and evade capture in the treacherous mountains of Iran. A totally hostile and unforgiving place to be. And this is where we get to the real climax of the story. U.S. forces finally get a lock on the pilot's location. But finding him is the easy part. Getting him out? Well, that's about to turn into an incredibly dangerous firefight. According to President Trump, this wasn't just a case of the pilot hiding out. He was actively being hunted down by our enemies. You can feel the urgency just ramping up by the second. And the Iranians knew they were close. The net was tightening around the pilot's hiding spot. Enemy forces were reportedly getting closer and closer by the hour. The window of opportunity for a rescue was slamming shut. So as U.S. Special Forces move in to get him, the whole situation just explodes. A fierce firefight breaks out right there on the ground. This was no quiet, stealthy extraction. This was a full-on combat rescue, with the pilot and the rescue team taking heavy, intense enemy fire. And that, right there, brings us back to the beginning. After 2 days of tension and a brutal firefight, the White House was ready to make an announcement. President Trump addressed the nation, and he did not mince words. He called the mission a massive success, saying the military had pulled off one of the most daring search and rescue operations in U.S. history to get back who he called one of our incredible crew member officers. So, what's the bottom line? It actually worked. The pilot was out, and he was officially safe and sound. Now, he did have some injuries from the whole ordeal, but they said he was going to be just fine. And what's truly incredible is that despite that massive firefight, no other Americans were killed or wounded during the mission. Just amazing. Now, you'd think that's the end of the story, right? A successful rescue. Everybody gets to breathe a sigh of relief. But not so fast. This whole event just ended up throwing a giant can of gasoline on an already burning fire. Feeling pretty confident after this successful rescue, the U.S. decided to crank up the geopolitical pressure. They came out and renewed their demand for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And if you don't know, that's this tiny choke point where a huge amount of the world's oil has to pass through. So this wasn't a request, it was an ultimatum. And this ultimatum came with a very, very clear deadline. Trump announced publicly, time is running out, 48 hours before all hell will rain down on them. I mean, you can't get much more direct than that. The threat of a massive military strike was officially on the table. But Iran's response was just as intense. General Ali Abdullahi Ali Abadi fired right back, warning that if Iran was attacked, the doors of hell will be open to you. So here we are, in a classic standoff, with both sides promising absolute devastation.
And this is the really wild thing we're left with, right? The life of one pilot was saved in this incredibly daring raid, a huge win for the U.S. military, for sure. But did that victory actually push these two nations even closer to the brink of a much bigger, much more destructive war? An American is safe, which is great, but the risk of all-out war seems higher than it's ever